Narendra Modi and the BJP, also claiming that the Sarda scam started when the left front was in power. Let's get the left response now to that big interview that has come in on the news today at 9. Joining me now, Sitaram Yechury, Member of Parliament, Senior Politburo Member of the CPIM. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Yechury. Let me turn first to Mamata Banerjee, claiming that she is ready to share a national platform with the left to keep communal forces, i.e. the BJP and Narendra Modi, out. How do you respond? You're already smiling.
Yes, I am very amused at this suggestion because one point that we must always keep in mind is that electoral politics or politics is not mere arithmetic. There cannot be a number aggregation in order to fight the communal forces. Fighting the communal forces has to be done ideologically, politically and organizationally. And secondly, remember, if there is a danger of communalism that is growing in West Bengal today, who is responsible for allowing these communal forces to enter and grow in West Bengal? It is the Trinamool Congress.
So you're rejecting her offer? Are you rejecting her offer on my program? She's talking about a national platform. Are you rejecting it, saying she is responsible for the rise of communal forces?
Please, what is there to accept or reject? As I said, communal forces is not just a number game. You add my votes and your votes. Please remember, there are people involved. And it's the people who will decide. And how can anybody fight the communal forces who are responsible for bringing the communal forces into Calcutta?
So you're saying she was trying to, sorry to interrupt, she was trying to liken this to Bihar, Nitish and Lalu coming together. She said the possibility of the left and the Trinamool coming together doesn't exist in Bengal, but at a national platform, we can have a common minimum agenda to keep communal forces out. Do you believe she's being opportunistic?
No, absolutely, because it is the Trinamool Congress that brought the communal forces into Bengal in the first place. Secondly, this comparison with Lalu or Nitish Kumar would not be correct. Because Lalu Prasad Yadav, all said and done, has always been opposed to the communal forces and never had any sort of an electoral, a honeymoon or an outing with them, like even Mr. Nitish Kumar did.
Right.
So do not compare these situations. That's not the issue. Issue here is squarely you will have to put the blame on the door of the Trinamool Congress for allowing the communal forces to spread and create a situation in Bengal that today is making the Chief Minister of Bengal running helter and skelter for some sort of a secular alliance.
May I ask you though, Mr. Yechury, that the fear of Narendra Modi and the rising force of Narendra Modi, which is now reaching Bengal, which is reaching other parts of the country, is that forcing the likes of Lalu and Nitish, the likes of Mamata, possibly even the left, to rethink some of their previous antipathies, animosities towards each other?
No, that is not it. The rise, what is making all the secular forces rethink is the ground reality that Mr. Modi is the Prime Minister and the communal forces are holding the reins of power in our country with a mere 31% of the vote cast. With a mere 31% of the vote cast, if they can do this, what has helped Mr. Narendra Modi and the RSS and the BJP is the division of the secular vote. Now, this is of concern for all the secular parties. Many of them are reacting in their own ways. So, it is not the question of a rise of Narendra Modi or something so dramatic that you put it. It is the actual ground reality. People are asking.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. If the ground reality is that the so-called anti-Narendra Modi forces are getting divided, then are you left with no option but to unite? Otherwise, Mr. Modi is going to win state after state. It is a matter of survival now.
What are you uniting for, Mr. Sardesai? You are uniting to fight the communal forces. How can you unite with a party that is responsible for bringing the communal forces into Bengal and for its growth today? This question itself is a contradiction.
My question may be a contradiction. I'm playing pictures from yesterday's Nehru Sesquicentennial where I saw a number of you come together on one platform organized by the Congress party. Am I to just see that as a photo op? Is that just a photo op? There is absolutely no ideological affinity.
there is absolutely no ideological affinity. And remember, yesterday's function was commemorating the 125th birth anniversary of Jawaharlal Nehru, who played an important role in shaping the modern Indian Republic as we know of it today. And that is it.
Okay.
Period. I mean, beyond that, if you are looking for something else, I mean, it's just not there on the agenda.
Okay, it's not there. Let me then ask you my final question, which is the Sarda scam. In that interview, Ms. Banerjee has now told me she is ready to resign if you can prove a link between her and the Sarda media group. She says, prove it. Otherwise, give me evidence. Otherwise, don't talk about it. How do you respond to that? Because there's a feeling that the left and other parties are using it to corner her. She claims this scam started when there was a left-front government.
Listen, I mean, I think certain elementary facts should be put on record. It will be a great relief if she were to live up to her promise. And I hope you will pin her down to your promise, the promise that she gave you, Mr. Sardesai. Because the fact of the matter is, it is the Trinamool Congress that refused to allow the CBI to inquire into the Sharda scam. It was only due to the Supreme Court's intervention that this is now happening. It was the Trinamool Congress that refused to allow the NIA to inquire into the Burdwan blasts, and because of which, because of the court's direction and the centre's overruling, that you now find this terrorist plot which is brewing here, which is dangerous for the country as a whole. It was the Trinamool Congress that was stopping all these inquiries to begin with, and it is not any CPIM or a left member who is of parliament, my colleague in the Rajya Sabha.
Right.
It is my colleague from the Trinamool Congress who is today in jail. And he is threatening a lot more will go to jail if the information that he is giving is properly probed. So the point is, you see, media ops and reckless statements are not the issue. What are the facts?
Okay,
both the Sharda scam and the terror issue, it is the Trinamool Congress that has been obstructing the investigation, and therefore, if evidence is found, I hope the Chief Minister lives up to her promise.
Okay, so from what you're saying, you're throwing down the gauntlet in a way. On a day when Mamata Banerjee seems to be reaching out to you, you're throwing out the gauntlet, saying it's Mamata Banerjee who has to come clean on terror, on secularism. She has to come clean on the terror plot. She has to come clean on Sarda. She has to come clean on the issue of secularism. I take your point. Sitaram Yechuri joining us to give a response from the left to Mamata Banerjee. That big interview that is likely to create waves in Bengal and beyond. Let's then turn to the other big story on the news today at 9. It's been a historic 5-day visit by Narendra Modi to Australia that concluded today. He now moves to Fiji. Mr. Modi today became the first Indian Prime Minister to address the Australian Parliament in Canberra. He held bilateral talks with Prime Minister Tony Abbott, after which the two countries have signed 5 pacts. During the talks, the two sides have also agreed to an early conclusion of negotiations for a comprehensive economic partnership agreement and the closure on the civil nuclear deal. Just let's listen in to what Mr. Modi had to say when he was addressing the Australian Parliament.
We must also support the process of economic integration across the region and an open globe trading system that remains integrated. We must guard against regional trade initiatives becoming instrument of political competition. The ocean are our lifelines, but we worry about the access and security in our part of the world more than ever before. Our region has seen huge progress on the foundation of peace and stability, but we cannot take this for granted. Preserving it will be the most important task in the region. India and Australia can play their part in it by expanding our security cooperation. Our shared challenges extend beyond our region. Terrorism has become a major threat for us all. In India, we have seen its face closely for 3 decades, and we see it with the clarity that comes with it. Terrorism is changing in character and expanding in its reach. Internet has made recruitment and call to violence self-generated. It also feeds off money laundering, drug trafficking, and arms smuggling. We have to deepen our bilateral security cooperation.
Okay, then the big question, Modi's Mission Australia, more hype than substance? Let's raise that big question here on the News Today at 9. Joining me now in the studio, G. Parthasarathy. He's been former High Commissioner to Australia. Also joining me, Hardeep Puri. He is, of course, with the Foreign Policy Cell of the BJP, former diplomat. Hardeep Puri joining me. Also joining me, Priyanka Chaturvedi, spokesperson of the Congress. Appreciate all of you joining me here on my other talking point today. Hardeep Puri, how do you look at it? Is it more hype than substance? What has India really got at the end of this rather long trip to Australia by the Prime Minister?
There were 3 components to this visit. The G20, for which it was primarily intended. I think the Prime Minister and his Sherpa have managed to insert into the G20 process issues of concern to us, point 1. Point 2, a bilateral visit to Australia after a gap of 28 years, which in and of itself is very significant. And thirdly, he has reached out in an unprecedented manner to the members of the Indian origin community there, which is also a plus plus. So I would say a lot of substance, and the characterization of more hype rather than substance is not something that I, or for that matter, most people who are familiar with these processes could subscribe to.
I'm just going to get in a Congress perspective on that, because the Congress has been pushing this line that it is more hype than substance. Priyanka Chaturvedi, a Prime Minister goes to Australia for the first time in 28 years. I mean, that in itself is a breakthrough, and that perhaps is one of the important substantive results of the Prime Minister going there. India at least is now, to some extent, top of the mind. I see Sydney Morning Herald has the Prime Minister's photograph on the front page.
No, all I'd like to mention here is when our Prime Minister goes on foreign tours, foreign trips, what we usually measure it with would be the outcomes, the result outcomes of the particular travel, the particular place he's traveled to. Now he's been to Japan. Japan promised some $35 trillion. Now they are officially into a recession. He's traveled to America. We haven't seen any major outcomes. Now if you're setting the bar at him, attracting crowd and addressing Indians out there and making a big thing out of it, then maybe he's achieved what he set out to achieve. But if we look at what he achieved at G20, his recent trip, when Mr. Puri talks about the G20, as far as I know, we had agreed, the UP, when Mr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, he had got all the G20 nations to agree on ensuring that the agreement of sharing cash transactions would be signed. But it has been deferred for another 2 years now. And if we look at the outcomes, the only outcome has been one particular coal mine being allocated or passed by the Australian government.
Hold on to that, Priyanka Chaturvedi, because you're raising what is a raw nerve at the moment. Perhaps Hardeep Puri, Priyanka Chaturvedi seems to be suggesting that the only real big benefit from this visit to Australia has been to the Adanis, who seem to have got most of their sanctions and clearances for their coal mines.
You know, I would recommend to anyone who's looking for outcomes to first look at the G20 declaration. Analyze the G20 declaration from the point of view of what we have been asking for some time. Look at the changes. They are there, visible, and they will be the start of processes which hopefully will have a proper follow-up.
She's raising the Adani issue. She's raising the Adani issue. The Congress is raising the issue of Adanis. The Congress is raising that the Adanis are the ones who are benefiting.
Well, let me first of all tell you that look at the bilateral agreements. If in the process of signing those bilateral agreements, Indian economic entities, it's very easy to make allegations, and that comes naturally to some people in our political system. If in the process India's economic relations with Australia are strengthened, irrespective of who the beneficiaries are, I would say we should welcome that.
Okay.
On the basis on which she is making an allusion to one
irrespective of
Indian
who the
economic
beneficiaries
entity,
are, if
I
the
don't know what she's
beneficiaries are
talking
a
about.
handful? How does that become irrespective of who the beneficiaries are if they are just a handful of who are being pushed and promoted?
Okay, hold
now,
on.
Even if we get into the
No,
outcome...
no, hold on.
I don't know. Terms like handful. If the overall quantum of India-Australia economic exchanges goes up many-fold, the beneficiaries will be the people of India. Somebody has to be the vehicle for that.
Mr. Puri, I would really want to understand from you. You seem to have read more from the G20 agreement. You seem to have read more results outcome. We would like to know one outcome besides that one particular claim.
Priyanka Chaturvedi, Hardeep Puri, hold on. I have a former Indian High Commissioner to Australia in the studio, and G. Parthasarathi. Mr. Parthasarathi, how do we assess a visit? Should it be assessed in terms of economic benefit? Because increasingly, that's how we look at diplomacy. Will investment to India increase as a result of the Prime Minister's visit, or simply that here was a Prime Minister 28 years after the last Prime Minister went to Australia, goes there, reaches out to both the Australian leadership, G20, as well as the NRIs?
Look, I am saddened that this is becoming so crassly political. Diplomacy is a process of continuity and change. So obviously, every government has done something, you take off from that. Now, as far as the mining sector in Australia are concerned, several Indian companies, the Aditya Birla Group, the GMR, and others apart from Adani's are involved.
Right.
The Adanis are involved in a big way even before this government came into power. They had put in about $10 billion by then. This is likely to increase. So the important thing about Australia is, given our mining regulations, no foreigner invests here.
That's right.
Our people have to go abroad and invest. And to the extent that the Australians are facilitating it, it is growing. It is a good thing. Unless this young lady compares...
But it's the question I raised yesterday. When you compare Chinese investment, let's say in Australia, and you compare where we stand in terms of bilateral trade, do you believe that the Prime Minister's main purpose was to increase trade between India and Australia? Or is it simply to create this feel good, to put India on the map and thereby hope that in the years to come, that will have benefits for the country?
Now, lest the young lady holds me as politically partisan, I must remind her I was Rajiv Gandhi's spokesman.
Yes.
And it was his visit in '86 that I am referring to. It was a good visit. Now, the fact of the matter is, this thing evolves. India has lost international business confidence over the last 3 years. I think it is important to revive that confidence. I think we are moving in that direction. This is a part of it. Now, coming to G20, the fact of the matter is that this time we did raise the issue of our concerns on tax avoidance at BRICS. It was really raising it at BRICS, which we had not done before, which brought it to the forefront. Okay? Again, this is a continuing process.
So you see this as part of a continuing process?
It is a part of a continuing process, and I would say this, that Mr. Modi has been very focused on this. I found UPA 1 was very focused and not UPA 2. The fact of the matter is, we should treat it as such. Countries have their ups and downs. Now, we are moving ahead, we are recovering, let's see how it goes. But in the meantime, to become churlish and point out one business house, the one business house is the biggest one there, even before this government came.
Okay, point taken, Mr. Parthasarathi. I'm going to give you the final word then, Hardeep Puri. Is this going to be the way diplomacy is going to be conducted by our government, using the force of personality of the Prime Minister? He wants to make his brand name associated with our diplomacy and thereby build the idea of Make in India.
Rajdeep, what we are witnessing today is really unprecedented. The Prime Minister, as the Chief Executive, is bringing a lot of personal commitment and passion to his job. The very fact that he is able to pack in a G20 meeting, a bilateral meeting, and a Madison Square Garden kind of performance also is all woven around the desire to rejuvenate the Indian economy. It's not as if he's appearing there and doesn't have a substantive message. He wants to attract foreign direct investment. Right. He wants to revive the manufacturing sector. He wants to build on certain themes which are domestic by using foreign policy and foreign economic policy inputs. Whether he is able to sustain this will remain to be seen.
Okay,
but let me tell you, after the inactivity and after the lethargy which we witnessed in the last few years, this is a welcome new approach, and I think it will begin to pay dividends. As Partha says, diplomacy is not an area where one seeks instant gratification. These are the commencement of processes, and those processes will take time to fructify.
Okay, so we're going to leave it. The jury is still out. At the moment, what is very clear is that the Prime Minister has decided to really put a lot of his own personal stake in foreign policy. Whether it will actually deliver results, we'll have to wait and see. Mr. Parthasarathy, Hardeep Puri, Priyanka Chaturvedi, appreciate your joining us on our talking point here.